The RSI Arrastra is a planned mining ship in Star Citizen, expected to bridge the gap between the Mole and the Orion, fitting neatly into the multi-crew mining groove. With plenty of room aboard for a more comfortable expedition than the smaller Mole, naturally, the idea of crewing up the Arrastra has got many players excited about the possibilities on offer with this ship. I'm Forrester, and welcome to the Drydock, a series which delves deeper into the ships of Star Citizen. This video will explore the background behind the Arrastra both in and out of game, and then take a look at some of the attributes and statistics of the ship before considering how that might all translate into gameplay. There are timestamps in the video description, although if you're interested in the Arrastra, you might prefer to watch this one all the way through. And whilst this channel usually focuses on what's in-game currently, necessarily this video will navigate the treacherous space that is speculation territory. Whilst every effort has been made to approach this video accurately, sometimes information is sparse and much is subject to change as time goes along, so please treat the content with a pinch of salt and not as a definitive promise as to what will happen. All of that said, let's dive into the background of the Arrastra. The RSI Arrastra was first announced in November 2023 as part of the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo celebrations, although there were hints that such a ship was to come, having been a popular choice in a public vote the previous year. The release announcement, which included a web page and coverage on Inside Star Citizen on YouTube, was shortly followed by a Q&A article on the Star Citizen website. As a newly announced ship, sadly there isn't much available about the launch of the Arrastra in-game. The term Arrastra relates to a primitive mill used to grind ore into smaller bits to then separate out pure materials. On announcement in 2023, the Arrastra was offered for sale for $575 or $525 for those pledging entirely new money. The stated purpose for the Arrastra is as a mining and refining ship, a home for multi-crew industrial operations designed with roles for each person to fulfill in order to have meaningful gameplay. The concept was something to bridge the gap between the Mole and the much larger capital-sized Orion. Based on current information, the Arrastra would have a total length of 124 meters, a total width or beam of 64 meters, and a total height or depth of 21 meters. For context, that's a similar size to the Carrack currently in-game. The total mass of the Arrastra is still to be determined. By way of components, the current plans would suggest that power would be provided by 2 large power plants, with cooling provided by 2 large coolers. Additionally, the ship would carry a large radar and 2 medium-sized computers. Defensively, the Arrastra would carry 2 large shield generators. The specifications also list a large fuel tank, 2 large hydrogen fuel intakes, with the size of the quantum fuel tank still to be determined. Both the quantum drive and jump drive are listed as large-sized. In terms of propulsion, the thruster loadout is yet to be determined, although the launch materials do talk about VTOL engines able to rotate to support planet-side operations. By way of armament, the specifications for the Arrastra list 3 remote turrets, each armed with 4 size 3 weapons. Additionally, the Arrastra would carry a wide variety of missiles, and that seems reasonable for defensive purposes in what is essentially a non-combat ship. The crew specifications for the Arrastra note a minimum crew of 2 to a maximum crew of 5. That seems fairly realistic for this ship, with 3 mining turret positions, a pilot seat, as well as a potential 5th role in organising the refinery jobs or moving crates around. It's expected that the Arrastra will include the usual amenities, things like habitation and beds for the crew. In addition, the ship has the ability to land and carry 2 small ground vehicles the size of a rock mining rover. There's also ample cargo storage aboard, with 64 SCU of storage for cargo crates and up to 512 SCU for refined ore crates. The major factor for a mining ship is the mining ability, and the Arrastra comes well prepared, with 2 remote mining turrets on each side of the ship, operated from the bridge, and capable of traversal to get into optimum position. There's a large central mining laser which can pass through the centre of the Arrastra to either be top-mounted or mounted beneath the ship. There's also set to be a tractor beam. After mining those delicious rocks, the Arrastra comes equipped with an onboard refinery to process the materials, with 2 reactors to have queues for different ore types. Each queue supposedly has a similar capacity to a single expanse. Additionally, the Arrastra is supposedly capable of taking on board the saddlebags from a prospector or mole and processing the materials therein. Naturally, the core gameplay available to the Arrastra is going to be mining, particularly in the multi-crew space. For between 2 and 5 people, the 3 mining turrets plus the pilot seat and potentially a position for refinery or logistics could make for an interesting multi-crew mining platform. The option to load up ground vehicles, such as a couple of rock mining rovers, further expands on that theme and looks to set up the Arrastra as a bit of a one-stop shop for that medium crew size mining gameplay. It'll be interesting to see what that means for the Mole, which also seems to sit in the 2 to 4 crew sort of niche, albeit at a much smaller size and price than the Arrastra. The onboard refinery will likely extend the amount of time that the Arrastra could be out for too, not because it can change the ore into anything usable by the ship, but by refining materials on the go, rather than having to go back to home base to sell up. As far as a fleet role for the Arrastra, it seems to be more of a self-contained mining centerpiece of industrial operations, being large enough to do it all, but also small enough to still fly down planetside gives a lot of flexibility. There are potentially some additional roles aboard. If the ground vehicle bay, for example, could also be used perhaps to carry a small scout ship that could potentially head out and look for ore. And clearly, the inclusion of an onboard refinery with the facility to take raw materials from a prospector or mole opens up the possibility of bringing additional mining ships along for the ride and dumping the goods all to one place. That could be particularly helpful if, for example, the Arrastra broke up big, high-value rocks, which could then be picked apart by the ships with smaller lasers aboard. Regardless, there's a lot of love out there for the Arrastra, despite only recently being announced, and it's easy to see why people are looking forward to it eventually hitting the verse. At the risk of going on for too long, that'll pretty much wrap it up for the Arrastra here, and so it's over to you to share your thoughts in the video comments. If you're not yet subscribed to the channel, you might like to do that too, so that you can get the heads up for new videos on the channel, as well as honing your mining lasers on the like button if you like heavily narrated slideshows talking about fictional spaceships. Otherwise, and as always, thank you for watching.